we wanted to get his point of view on what's going on in the city of St. Louis with crime and business and all that. Jason Hall, welcome back to Big 550 KTRS.
Good morning, McGraw. Good to be with you.
You bet it. First, let's talk about some of the positives. I know you've been out and about knocking on doors, talking to some companies. Any big breaking news that has happened over the last couple of weeks?
Well, there's been a lot of great news, and certainly would hit this morning. Our region has been selected by Amazon for 1,000 new jobs over based in Edwardsville, and one of our targeted clusters for growth for this region, logistics, moving goods and services. So really some exciting news coming to the region this morning.
Yeah, all right. So that broke this morning, 1,000 plus jobs. They're putting in two different fulfillment centers. Can we say that because of the roads in Southern Illinois and the excess capacity with the airports is a reason why they like the area?
Well, I think it's a multitude of things. In some ways, this goes all the way back to our history as the founding of this entire region. We've got this incredible intersection of the river, road, rails, and air, and it just puts us right at the center of all the forms of transportation you need to make goods and ship them. And we want to continue to grow and lean into that area. We're working very hard every day in that industry cluster to tell that story, share those assets, and grow more jobs. And we could not be more excited than the announcement this morning for 1,000 new jobs coming to this region in this exciting sector.
Sorry, so how does it build on itself? Amazon is they're a pretty big player in this space. And so the fact that they've announced this, do you then take that to other companies and say, if Amazon's coming, that means big things, so you should come too?
Well, we certainly like to share the success of not only newcomers to the region, but those that are here, and telling the story of how our location as a 15-county bi-state region will make their business more competitive by choosing us. We got the workforce, we got the modes of transportation, and absolutely, when a company like Amazon, chooses, they could go anywhere, and they chose to come to the St. Louis region. I think it helps reinforce that what we're saying is authentic, and some of the largest and most successful companies that could choose to go anywhere choose St. Louis when they're given that option.
Is this a situation where both sides of the river worked together on this?
Oh yeah, I mean the logistics sector unites this region. It's a strength on both sides of the river. I grew up in Southern Illinois. It is just an authentic strength that goes throughout our 15 counties, and I think it's a sector where we come together, we work together, and we're growing jobs on both sides of that river.
Jason Hall, the recent news about some of the crime that has happened in downtown St. Louis, how does that affect your job of trying to bring jobs and businesses to the St. Louis region?
Sure. No, let's face it, when high incidents of crime get a lot of attention, it certainly doesn't make things easier. Downtown is one of the most dense areas of technology startups in the entire region. When you see incidents like this, it gets people's attention. And, I think I always, look to the positives on this, though. The kinds of incidents we saw, over the last couple of weeks, they've happened in other zip codes, but they get a lot of attention when they happen in the downtown corridor. What I think we need to be focusing on is, solving that problem. How do we put in place solutions, not finger pointing, not blaming others, but how do we take the responsibilities that have been given to us as leaders in various roles today to start working towards solving that problem. And not only when there's a high-profile incident in the central corridor, but we need to have that same sense of urgency every single day. My accountability in this, I firmly believe that if we have more job opportunities, that's one of the best crime prevention tools we can have. So I wake up every single day trying to bring more jobs and opportunities to this city, to this region, so we can put more people to work. And I think that's one of the best crime prevention tools we have. Others have other responsibilities in the public safety system. And I think they really need to be focusing on solving those problems, and we need to stop the finger pointing.
Have you had these companies that you've worked with reach out to you, talk to you? Because I certainly have had some of the people, the leaders on Washington Avenue, reach out to me. We've had a number of them on the show. Have they reached out to you to sort of help, to hinder, to sort of give their 2 cents about the whole thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, the messages as they've come to me, McGraw, are that we've got such an incredible opportunity, particularly downtown, where you've got, a tech startup scene that is the envy of the country right now. And downtown is a huge part of that, the T-Rex innovation community. We see so much potential that I think what people are saying when they call us, we've got to tackle this problem. And we've got to solve the crime problem that we face so that we can just seize this opportunity. So it's really been a message of optimism that we can do this. Let's support our officers. Let's recruit our officers. We know that the force is not fully staffed right now. Let's let the leaders on the scene take responsibility to recruit, train, support, and properly pay the men and women on the front lines of law enforcement. I think that's the immediate thing that could be done in the short term. So let's get moving on that.
Jason Hall, you've been on the show before talking about some of these tech startups, and I think it's a story that isn't told. We hear about it. I don't know if the media is doing a bad job of not sort of explaining it to people, but you keep mentioning it. Give us a sense of, you say that the tech startups is the envy of the country.
Absolutely.
Give us a sense of how big or how much potential all of this is having downtown.
Well, I'll put it this way. People often don't appreciate fully startups when they're small companies, right? They may be 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the staff. But let's think of what the biggest news story has been on the business side in St. Louis in the last 2 weeks, and that's been Monsanto. And there's been a question of, will Monsanto be sold to another company, and the loss of that corporate headquarters? And it stirs something up in us. The reason is Monsanto was a startup. 1901, John Queeny. No one knew John Queeny then, but he created a company from St. Louisans right here in St. Louis that's been employing families for generations. That's what the more than 150 companies down at T-Rex at 9th and Washington right now, just in that one building, that's what they're doing. They're creating the next Monsanto down there. To put it in big picture perspective, St. Louis is a major driver of this, and downtown certainly is. Last year, the Wall Street Journal analyzed data on where new businesses are being created at the fastest rate. And they expressed a concern that our country is not creating innovative new businesses at a fast enough rate to stay globally competitive. Only 11 states had year-over-year growth. That means we created more businesses that in the current year than we did in the prior year. Missouri was the number 1 state in the country, 17% growth rate in our startups. I mean, let's think of something we all love, like baseball. This is our farm team. This is the next Monsanto that we're being created. We got to fill that pipeline with young, innovative new companies so that they can grow right from this region. We do that very well in St. Louis. Think of Monsanto. Think of Emerson. Think of Enterprise. Think of Edward Jones. All companies started by St. Louisans growing here in St. Louis. We do it very well, and we're reaching a new renaissance of that. I think we got away from startups as part of our culture for a while, but it's back, it's strong, and it is thriving in downtown St. Louis.
Jason Hall, that's your job, that's your responsibility, and a lot of people have pointed to you as the reason why we're doing so well with startups and all these new tech jobs. You are now with the regional chamber. You were with the governor's office for a while. Jason Hall, I was reading in the St. Louis Business Journal yesterday that your name is still out there as possibly running for mayor. You want to break some news and make the announcement that you're running for mayor here on KTRS Radio?
Well, I don't have any news to break, but I'll say, McGraw, it was an honor to be on your show. It has been flattering for someone like me and someone of my background to have the outreach I've had from such a diverse range of people from throughout the region, really, including in the city. And it's such an honor to be thought of. And really, though, I look at it as a responsibility. People are looking at me to lead, and I'm going to use those God-given talents I have every single day to serve this city, this region, and be responsible for what I've been entrusted with. You know, the future is unknown at this point. I will say I'm focused on my job and my responsibilities right now. I would be remiss, given the number of calls to outreach and the very just personal messages that people have encouraged me to think about this, not to give this serious thought about all of the ways that I can best put my talents to work for this community.
Well, I think in there somewhere in your non-answer answer, you said you're thinking about it.
I think that's fair, McGraw.
All right. Well, there we go. Well, at least we move the ball a little further down the field this time.
I think it is. I would be a little concerned for somebody that jumps in too fast. I mean, when you really get close to this line and start thinking about positions of public trust, this is hard work, and I think you need to be in it for the right reasons. And those reasons are not yourself. They need to be in there to be a servant leader, to serve others. And I think that requires a lot of deep personal thought, not just the practical sacrifices one makes to serve the public, which I know from my time in Jefferson City. But I think you really got to really do some deep personal reflection on your vision, how you would do it, why you would do it. And I do think that takes time. And I think the kind of leader we want as the next mayor, whoever that person is, I want that to be a person that's had that deep reflection and didn't just jump into a race to hold an office, but because they're ready to lead, and because they're ready to lead for the right vision that St. Louis needs in the 21st century.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's the goods. He's all that and a bag of chips. Jason Hall with the St. Louis Regional Chamber. Get back to work, Jason. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, McGraw.